Our new series titled this week and for the next couple of weeks, several weeks, probably 3 weeks, maybe more, just depending on where God leads, is In the Fire. And we're going to be talking the next several weeks about how to exist, how to live in life, how to experience God in moments where life is just extremely challenging. We are taught in culture. This is how culture talks to us. They tell us to avoid it. They tell us to hide from it. They tell us not to focus on it. That when adversity comes, culture encourages us to do everything in our power to run from it, to hide from it, to not focus on it, to almost act like it's not there, that we're taught to reduce or to avoid or try to cope with moments of strain, stress, and trauma. But if we are truly believers of Christ, we should believe that we can walk through anything. We either believe that or not. And I mean, that's hard because some of us, that anything that I'm talking about that God says we can walk through is not a pleasant anything. It's not been easy. It's been a sickness or a disease in your physical health. It's been a dilemma with your family, a fight or a battle or a struggle with the people that you love most. But in Christ, we should believe that we can walk through anything. And the Bible uses this metaphor of walking in our faith, and it talks about how we should walk through difficult or perilous, potentially fatal moments with complete and total trust in God. I think that a lot of us are apt to avoid struggle. We don't like the fire. We don't like being in places where it's stressful and overwhelming. We're taught, like in Western culture, it's been said, it's kind of like this, when adverse weather comes, you go and hide in the house or tuck yourself away in the basement until the weather goes away. And some of us, instead of embracing and going full on at it, when we face fire in this life, we want to hide. We want to avoid. We want to run. We want to act like it's not there or it's not real. We don't want to experience it. We don't believe that we exist in it. But walking through darkness, swirling waters, and fire is all a part of the Christian life. Let me ask you this. What has happened to the boldness of prophets and disciples willing to face fire or anything for the way? The VeggieTales call them Rack, Shack, and Benny, but, they were exposed to fire. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were exposed to fire. They were thrown into a fiery furnace so hot that the guards that escorted them to that furnace died in the process. I love the way that their story plays out because they're like, our God will rescue us. But if he doesn't, and we're not bowing, you can forget it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to take place. I'm not going to worship your idol. You can forget it. God is going to deliver us, but if he doesn't, we're still not bowing. A lot of us love God is going to deliver us, and we love the part where they're standing in that fire and they are not burned, not scorched. When they walk out of the furnace, they don't even smell like smoke. We like that part. We struggle with, but even if he doesn't. We are to meet and move through suffering without shock and surprise, without denial of our weak or sorrow or weakness. It's okay. I'm not telling you guys to walk into these moments of challenge and say, I'm fine, I'm great, everything's wonderful. No, we can't deny that we're weak. We can't deny that we have sorrow. But we should also walk through these moments without resentment or paralyzing fear, without surrender or despair. 1 Peter 4:12 through 14 says, "Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials of you are going through as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad." That sounds crazy, but be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in his suffering, so that you will have the wonderful joy of seeing his glory when it is revealed to all of the world. If you are insulted because you bear the name of Christ, you will be blessed, for the glorious Spirit of God rests upon you. If we believe in Jesus, we can rest in him. And suffering will relate to us as fire relates to gold. It will refine us. It will shape us. It will make us better. It will make us stronger. It'll make us people who truly and deeply, passionately pursue God, even in the face of great struggle. Do you want to know who you really are? Your strengths and weaknesses? Do you want to be compassionate as a person who skillfully helps those who are hurting? Do you want to have such a profound trust in God that you are fortified against life's disappointments? Do you want to be wise and understanding about how life goes? Here's the truth. There's no way to really know who you really are until you're tested. There's no way to empathize or sympathize with other suffering people unless you have suffered yourself. And this is hard, but there's no way to really learn how to trust in God until you feel like you're drowning. I know that sounds so contrary, because we like the God who is defined by moving us out of difficulty and challenge. We like the God who is defined by pulling us out of any kind of trauma and trouble, that everything in life is going to play out well and be perfect and be wonderful. And we have a shallow faith at times like that. When things get hard, we abandon. God, why did you do this to me? Why did you let this happen? Why did you let me encounter this? Why did you allow this struggle to come in my life? And God is telling you this morning that in the fire, he can be trusted. I know that experiences in my short life have taught me that in all moments, the moments that I feel so alone and so afraid and so broken, the moments where I feel indeed like I'm drowning, that he can be trusted. Because the truth is it took at times for me to come to those places where I was absolutely overwhelmed by the reality of my life, that I had nowhere else to turn. And some of those things we walk ourselves right into. Some of those things are a result of just living in a fallen world. And things that happen to us stink. But God is with us in the fire. Another statement, Tim Keller said this. I don't know if you guys know who he is. If you've created a false God of my program, then when life falls apart, we will simply assume he has abandoned us and we won't seek him any longer. We assume, though, that life is falling apart. But if we could see from his ability, his magnanimous authority, we would see that it's not falling apart, it's being pieced together. It's being put where it should be. The thing about suffering, though, is not only can it refine us, it also can harden us and consume us. Plenty of people have been broken by suffering, terribly broken. The only way for us to overcome this, and I would love to give you like this simple definition of, okay, here's a couple phrases to empower you. the way to walk through suffering in this life is a rhythmic relationship with God. Staying consistent with everything. Communication, prayer, and reading the Bible are absolutes in our life. We get so frustrated and we feel so barren and we feel like God is not communicating with us. But if we were honest, we would say it's been a week or more since the last time I picked up a Bible and actually read it. A lot of times people call out to Christ in a moment of fear. You're driving down the road, moose jumps out in front of you, you shout, "Oh, Jesus," right? But how many of us call on his name daily? Communicate him honestly, with honesty and transparency. Talk to him about what we're facing and what we're going through and what we're experiencing. It's in that rhythmic motion of experiencing God that you will find yourself receiving inexplicable peace that passes understanding. There'll be days of explosive insight, like rays of sunshine in your darkness. I mean, it'll come to you and you'll say, that's what this is about. Or it won't even be an indication of why or what. It'll just be a reminder, hey, I'm God and I'm with you. I'm not hovering over you saying, good luck, make it through. No. It's crazy to me because he walks in the furnace with us. He doesn't abandon us in the furnace. He doesn't throw us in there and say, okay, I got to go somewhere. I'm going to let you be refined here for a few minutes. I got other business to handle. No, he walks right in it with you and I. He exposes himself to the same struggles that we have been exposed to. And we'll have moments of great insight like rays of light in a dark room. And there will be progress. Life will change. You realize that Jesus himself plunged himself into a furnace for you and I. And Jesus Christ himself is the example. That Jesus Christ himself is the proof, the credibility behind the fact that we can face anything. When we recognize what he did for you and I, we realize that there's nothing we cannot face. And that's not an arrogant or cocky statement. It's a revelation of trust in God that he indeed has you. That he indeed has you. You won't believe. Some of us, when our faith falters, we just naturally assume that we're being punished for our sin or this is what we had coming. God is refining us. God is shaping us. God is helping us to be steadfast. We don't like to suffer. It stinks. It does. But God is doing something. James 1 in the Message translation. James, just so you guys know, James was the brother of Jesus. Just can imagine growing up in that. I mean, it'd be one thing to convince the disciples that you were the Son of God, but can you imagine being your brother saying, hey, brother, I'm the Son of God. Yeah, okay. Some of you have experienced that in your life. At least they act like it, maybe. All right, another sermon, another time. Anyway, James 1, though, in the Message translation, 2 through 5, and then I'm going to read verse 12. It says, consider it sheer gift, friends, when the tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You ever have one of those weeks, one of those days where it's just like everywhere, it's coming at you from every direction, every place? You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and shows its true colors. You find out who people really are when things get tough. The real you, you go through a struggle, you go through a challenge, you go through a difficulty, and you spill out something. I mean, something just comes oozing out of your mouth. You're crass or you cuss or whatever you want to call it. And someone's like, ooh, and you're like, I don't know where that came from. No. It got too strong. The pressure overwhelmed, the filter broke, and it just spilled out. Under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open. It shows its true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you become mature and well-developed, not deficient in any way. All right? Jesus is not our escape clause. He's not our easy way out. In fact, following Jesus is often defined in the New Testament as the harder road to walk. But that's okay, because it's a better road to walk. Being in the fire, being in the furnace, being in struggle, being in difficult times, it is good for you because as this says right here, it will mature you. It will develop you. You won't be deficient. If you don't know what you are doing, pray to the Father. He loves to help. You'll get his help. And you won't be condescended to when you ask him for it. He's not going to look at you like, you idiot. He's going to be thankful that you're like, hey, Father in heaven, hey, Christ, I need you. I need you right now because this is just too much. This is too challenging. This is too difficult. And then in verse 12, anyone who meets a testing challenge head on and manages to stick it out is mighty fortunate. For such persons loyally in love with God, the rewards is life and more life. There's reward. There's promise. There's trust. There's got to come a point in our Christian life where we embrace difficulty. Sometimes we walk through and we just beg God, please deliver me. God, why aren't you freeing me from this? God, why aren't you pulling me from this? God, why aren't you helping me escape from this? You're the God who all those ministers misquoted those scriptures that said that you won't put anything on me more than I can handle. Hey guys, I got news for you. That is not biblical. With God, you can handle anything though. We like the other one because we're like, okay, God, that's too much. I can't handle that. Oh, God's not going to put it on me. No. You got to have such a confident trust in him that whatever he allows to be placed on you, you just reach out to him and watch as he walks with you through it, as he walks with you in it, that he helps you to the other side. If there's an absence of adversity in my life, there's also an absence of progress. If there's an absence of adversity in my life, there's an absence of progress as well. I'm not telling you to walk out of this place and stir some stuff up. Please do not. Okay? This is not a call or commission for you to go and rub people the wrong way. But it's going to happen. Life is going to bring adversity. Challenges are going to come. You are going to be insulted and laughed at for your trust in Jesus Christ. Some of you right now, you're in the fire, and it's not pleasant, and it feels like hell. Some of you are there, and God is telling you this morning, the adversity in your life is going to create something so wonderful. This pressure that's pushing against you, you know what? It's going to make you better. It's going to make you better. Outlook determines our outcome, and attitude determines our action. Your outlook on how things are landing and how things are playing out, it will determine your outcome. If your outlook is pessimistic, poor is me, woe is me, I've got all kinds of trouble, nothing happens good in my life, poo-poo, wah-wah, cry. I love you guys, but that's going to be your outcome. You're going to end up in a pile of dust and misery wondering what happened. No. My attitude's going to determine my action. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust him in this storm. I'm going to trust him in this challenge. I'm going to trust him in this difficulty. I'm going to go with him in his way. I read this a few weeks ago, but I want to read from the Message translation. I want to read Paul's story of being on that boat. You guys remember this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about crashing the chatterbox. I want to bring a couple of thoughts out from this. It says, with our appetite for both food and lifelong gone, Paul took his place in the midst and said, friends, you really should have listened to me back in Crete. Oops. He warned them, but they didn't listen. We could have avoided all of this trouble and trial, but there's no need to dwell on that now. Okay. Don't you wish your friends were like that sometimes? You should have listened to me, but there's no reason to dwell on that now. No. Anyway, from now on, things are looking up. I can assure you that there'll not be a single drowning among us, although I can't say as much for the ship. The ship itself is doomed. Last night, God's angel stood at my side. The angel of God, of this God I serve, sang to me, don't give up, Paul. You're going to stand before Caesar yet. I'm sure he's thankful for that as well. And everyone sailing with you is also going to make it. So dear friends, take heart. I believe God will do exactly what he told me. But on the Adriatic Sea, at about midnight, the sailors sensed that we were approaching land. Sounding, they measured the depth at 120 feet. And shortly after that 90 feet, afraid we were about to run aground, they threw out the 4 anchors and prayed for daylight. Some of the sailors tried to jump ship. They let down the lifeboat, pretending they were going to set out more anchors from the bow. Paul saw through their guise and told the centurion and the soldiers, if these sailors don't stay on the ship, we're all going down. So the soldiers cut the lines of the lifeboats and let them drift off. I mean, he's a prisoner. He's like, do this, and they do it. It's just crazy. With dawn about to break, Paul called everyone together and proposed breakfast. Might as well, right? This is the 14th day we've gone without food. I'd be hungry too. And none of us has felt like eating, but I urge you to eat something now. You'll need strength for the rescue ahead. You're going to come out of this without even a scratch. He broke the bread, gave thanks to God, passed it around, and they all ate heartily. 276 of us, all told. With the meal finished and everyone full, the ship was further lightened by dumping the grain overboard. The soldiers decided to kill the prisoners so none could escape by swimming, but the centurion determined to save Paul, stopped them. Again, Paul rescued. He gave orders for anyone who could swim to dive in and go for it, and for the rest to grab a plank. Everyone made it to shore safely. Don't cower in fear, anger, and disbelief. Don't be despondent. Speak up, shout out hope, muster courage. Speak of the promise of God. God is a faithful God. You want to talk about being in a bad situation. Paul is headed to meet his death. And he's still ministering to people. He's like, hey, it's cool. Don't worry. Let's have some breakfast. It's going to be good. You need your energy and strength. We'll be all right. We're going to get there. Everything's going to work out. I want to name 3 things to you guys this morning as we close. Three thoughts, 3 perspectives. Number 1, see it coming so you don't end up running. See it coming. Oh, come on. Like, Paul had vision into what was going to happen. God had spoken to him and warned him that if they did not listen to him, that surely trouble was upon them. Sometimes you hear that from God. And when you don't hear his distinct voice, you open this book up right here, and it tells you if they hate you, it's because they hated me first. See it coming. See it coming. Know that it's coming. Know that trouble is coming. I don't want to be a pessimist, and I don't want you guys to be in a bad place when you leave here this morning. But the truth is we live in a fallen world that is broken, and we're going to face moments of struggle. It's going to happen. See it coming. What if the world saw the best in us in the middle of our worst crisis? What if? It's easy for us for others to see the best in us when we're living the blessed life and everything's wonderful and everything's good and we've got all that we want and all that we need and so on and so forth. All the money's there and everything's wonderful. But what if the world around us saw us in great trouble and great challenge and saw in us a confidence and trust in God that astounded them? That they would say, that's crazy. That is just crazy. That they would trust God that much. See it coming. See it coming so you don't end up running. Give God the first 15 every day. Like, seriously. I mean, for some of us, it's more than that, and it should be. But like, if you're not doing that already, you need to start doing that. Give God the first 15. When you wake up, when those eyelids peel open and you're in your bed going, oh, I don't want to go to bed. Give God an opportunity to speak. Some of you guys, you got these smartphone things. Install an application called YouVersion Bible. It'll give you daily Bible reading. Lean over and if you don't have that, grab this. I always like this better, but grab this and open it up and read some scripture. Find some inspiration. Find some hope. Give God the first 15 so you can see it coming, so you don't start running. Number two, real quick, if I can find my place. It's up there on the I think it's up there, right? Oh, I love this. I didn't see that coming. All right. Number two, see it through. See it through. See it through. What do we do when things get overwhelming? We run, right? We run. Come on, let's be real. Oh, no, it's happening again. I'm out of here. I mean, how many times have you had a friend, or maybe in your own life you've experienced it, you've moved from place to place, you lived in so many different places because you just thought that if you got out of it, it'll go away. And you've run from different place to different place, assuming that it'd get better, but it doesn't. See it through. I'm going to rhyme here. See it through because you have no idea what God is going to do. You just don't. You don't. See it through because you have no idea what God is going to do or what God is about to do. He wants a better you. He wants a stronger you. He wants a refined you. He wants a you that can stand the test of life. That's why at times he allows us to be tested. God is not a tempter. The book of James tells us very clearly, he's not tempted, nor does he tempt us. Don't assume that inaccurately. But when we face tests in this life, see it through. When you're faced with a heat season, and it's just like one moment after the other, and you're just like, oh, stop it. You know you've been there. I've been there. Enough. Enough, God. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm finished. And God's just like, come on, see it through. See it through. And he's not on the other end cheering us on. He's right next to us. He doesn't abandon us. He doesn't abandon us. And last, shake it off. I'm going to rhyme again, knowing that God is about to show off. In Acts 28, it goes on. They get on land. I mean, enough is enough, right? You guys remember this story from a few weeks ago. In verse 1 of Acts 28, it says, once everyone was accounted for and we realized we had all made it, we learned that we were on the island of Malta. And the natives went out of their way to be friendly to us. Not bad. The day was rainy and cold, and we were already soaked to the bone, but they built a huge bonfire and gathered us around it. Paul pitched in to help. Okay. He had gathered up a bundle of sticks, but when he put it on the fire, a venomous snake, roused from its torpor by the heat, struck his hand and held on. Seeing the snake hanging from Paul's hand like that, the natives jumped to the conclusion that he was a murderer. Nice. Getting his just desserts. You ever went through trouble and your friends, your nice friends, your friends who mean well say, you got what you deserved. Not too nice. Anyway, Paul shook the snake off into the fire. None the worse for wear. They kept expecting him to drop dead, but when it was obvious he wasn't going to, they jumped to the conclusion that he was a god. Word of the healing got around fast, and soon everyone on the island who was sick came and got healed. Came and got healed. Sometimes that challenge, it won't go away. It just keeps coming at you. It keeps presenting itself. I mean, hello, he's a prisoner. He is a prisoner. Headed to see Caesar. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. And what happens? Don't go this way. I'm warning you, the boat's going to crash, and it crashes. But don't be worried. Everybody will be saved. And then he's pitching in. He's giving the natives a help. He wants to start a fire, and this snake jumps out of nowhere and grabs a hold of him, and he just shakes it off. I mean, I'm sure it hurt a little, and that caused some of the shake. But I mean, can you imagine seeing the snake as it was shaking off of your body thinking, oh boy, I am DEAD dead. Sometimes when the struggles are unrelenting, you have to shake it off. You got to shake off the emotion that is trying to control you. You have to shake off the desire to be a pessimist, the desire to walk down a road of depression. You've got to shake off the desire to find yourself in a place that you'll say, it will never get better. Things will never improve. It's not ever going to be good. I'm always going to be sick. I'm always going to be sad. I'm always going to be depressed. I'm never going to have enough money. My spouse and I will always be miserable. It'll never be good in this life. I'll always have problems with anxiety. I'll always be dumb. I'll always be overwhelmed. Always, always, always. And these thoughts, like I shared it several weeks ago, come flooding into your head. Shake it off. Shake it off. Shake it off. If you're not in the fire, there will come moments in your life where you indeed will be in the fire. There will become experiences where you indeed will be in trouble and difficulty. In 2 Timothy 1:6-7, therefore, I remind you to keep ablaze, to rekindle the gift of God that is in you. It is in you. It is in you through the laying on of my hands. For God has not given us a spirit of fearfulness, but one of power, one of love, and sound judgment, because we need sound judgment. Ain't that the truth? Sometimes we feel forsaken, we feel abused, we feel hurt, we feel insulted, laughed at, condemned. And what do we want to do? We want to insulate. We just want to crawl into whatever place we can find and hide there. I've been there. Sometimes as a pastor, you got to do things that are unpopular. You face things that it's not comfortable. It's not easy. People don't like some stuff. And you just want to go somewhere and you want to hide. You want to cower down and say, I don't want to do this crap. I'm done. Shake it off. Because God is bringing you through. God is doing something. God is making you a better person. The true you is coming out into the open, as the book of James says. It's coming out into the open, and God wants to reveal how powerful, how mighty, how incredible He is. And we like the part that says that He's incredible and mighty when the trouble goes away and when things are perfect and when things just get better. But sometimes it's even more powerful of a revelation when He's in it, when we're sticking to it. And we're sticking through it. And we're pushing through and we're trusting Him. See it coming so you don't go running. See it through because you don't know what He's about to do. And shake it off because you know He's going to show off. God this morning wants to comfort you. He doesn't want you to walk out of here like, thanks, Pastor. Now I know that this is on purpose. Back to it. No. Because God promises us peace. Things around us may not appear all right, but we can be all right. Let me ask you a couple questions as we close this morning. What unexpected troubles are you currently dealing with? What is it? The sickness? The money problems? Some of us, it might be money problems and we might have got ourselves into it, but that doesn't mean God doesn't want to help us through it. What is it? What's going on in your life? Ask yourself, be honest, be transparent for a minute with God. What is the fire that you're in? What are you currently dealing with? What hardship do you need to shake off that you haven't yet? Without a proper trust in the Lord, these things are consuming. They will inhabit our thoughts and take over. I mean, they will absolutely control us. And what can you do to better see adversity coming so you don't go running? Hindsight is, what they call 20/20 or whatever. Sometimes it's not. I mean, that's not always the case, but you guys have known in previous experiences in your life where you've went through things and you just wish that it hadn't happened. A couple years later, or a couple months later, maybe a decade later, you're like, oh, if I wouldn't have went through that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Right now, you got to think of those things. You got to reminisce of the fact that perhaps this is the best thing for you. And you have an option. You can either allow your life to be softened by God, allow Him to soften you so that He can saturate within you, or you can harden yourself to it. And we always usually choose the walls and the hardness because we assume that that's easier and better. But it's not. In the fire. I want to help you see this through, guys. I want to help you push through this. I wish that I could tell you right now that if you say a prayer, that all those things in your life that are overwhelming and frustrating would just disappear. But God is not a genie. He's not. And He sees the better you that He is making of you. Trust Him. And you know what? This life is a blink. You have forever and ever 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 and so on and ever to live with Him in paradise. Some of you have experienced how much of a blink this life is. Some of you are thinking, I wish it was over sometimes. Trust Him. Trust where He's taking you. Trust what He's doing within you. And don't be afraid of the fire. Don't hide from it. Dare I say, embrace it. Embrace it. Embrace it. Father, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for your truth, as hard as it is this morning, perhaps, to accept. Some of us in this room might just not want to believe what's being said. I pray, God, that you would give them confidence in you. God confidence, not in themselves, not in their own talent, or their own intelligence, or their own way to see things through, but God, that they would trust you, that they would faithfully commit themselves to you, knowing Jesus Christ, your Son, accepted the furnace that he was given, accepted the fire, exposed himself to death, a horrible, treacherous death. Help us to see how little what we face is compared to that. Give us the boldness we need to trust you, God, in the fire. That we would not run, that we would not hide, that we would not try to escape, but that we would realize what you're seeking to perfect in us, that you want to make us better people, that you want to see us become the example that you've called us to be. Help us, God. Help us, God. Amen.